Welcome to Leaps of Knowledge.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Adrian. Great to have you with us today. Leaps of Knowledge is a series of events that bring together the world's leading technologists, innovators, and shapers all on one stage.
That's right. Through this, we invite everyone to be a game changer in education. We've been on a 5-part virtual series following our values, and today it's all about our 4th value, reach for perfection.
So the episode premieres in a few minutes, and you might be watching this from different platforms, Facebook, YouTube, or on Leaps of Knowledge website itself.
Yeah, as always, we have a treasure hunt during the episode. So here's the challenge. You have to name the fruit that Sun Sing uses for his dish, and then name the types of berries that Lu uses in her dish as they go into a cook-off later during the episode. Then submit your answers at this link, and 5 winners will stand a chance to win exclusive merchandise.
Alright, time for us to go. Enjoy the episode. Bye!
Pay attention. Below the surface there is more to see.
The pressure to perform today is greater than it ever was before.
For me, excellence is not an end goal, it's really a journey.
Reaching for excellence. These two words are actually in paradox with each other.
You could say that in a hyper-interconnected world, students are constantly exposed to comparison.
While they continue to face academic pressure from school and home.
And with all the pressure, it's very exhausting.
But what are we really asking them to chase? What does it mean to pursue perfection in a world that values innovation, flexibility,
creativity, and where new paths are being forged every day by bold pioneers?
Because you never reach excellence. It's a consistent and continuous pursuit.
How can we, learn to make mistakes while we're learning, but now we improve ourselves?
We either go all out for major affirmation or we go all out for negative referencing. And what I'm saying is actually, we need really healthy balance here.
Just reach for it. Now that's what we're looking for, yeah. Just reach for it. Wasn't never about to score now. Just reach for it. Set your focus, stay the course, Just reach for it. Shoot for what is right before ya. So in this heart of mine, I'm used to always be evolving till I see a better me. Because the world is mine, I hold on to believe I was meant to take the lead. 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 Take the lead.
Welcome to Leaps of Knowledge, the Heart series. In this episode, we explore our 4th value, reach for perfection.
The human race has always pursued excellence, reaching for perfection. Our desire to keep pushing boundaries has led us to new inventions and innovative ideas over the course of history. We keep asking ourselves, how can we get better at things? How can we improve our lifestyles? However, today's generation of students are faced with a new culture of perfection. They're often compared to the world's standards of what is considered best or most worthy.
Whether it's having their social media game on point to keep 100,000 followers, or having their entire learning experience evaluated by the number of A's they can score. Don't you ever stop to wonder what gives everyone these predetermined ideas of success and perfection?
Our roles are so important here. How we frame the idea of success and the words we choose to use really have an influence on young people. We need to constantly ask, how can I make learning inclusive? What kind of culture can I create in my classroom or at home to promote incremental growth, no matter what that looks like?
To us, reaching for perfection is to pursue excellence because you are passionate about something meaningful, not for the approval of others or to be ahead of competition. True passion allows us to reach for what is good in our world. And the amazing thing is, when everyone pursues excellence as individuals, we collectively contribute towards a better world, one of beauty and meaning.
This applies to a classroom project, a personal hobby, or even at work. And so the question is, are we really preparing this generation to value the pursuit of excellence?
As the CEO of Pemimpin GSL, Cheryl Fernando and her team work with school leadership teams across Malaysia to provide support in the form of community learning and training. Cheryl is able to help us better understand where education is right now and has a few ideas of where it could be.
Well, let's talk about where we are right now in education. When it comes to recognizing success and excellence, many education systems still rely heavily on the traditional way of examinations. And although some schools try various ways to assess students throughout the year, they often fall back on final examinations as an indicator of student progress and achievement. This approach often limits the idea that every student has their own path to be pursued to achieve their fullest potential. Traditional examination focuses on getting good grades alone as the benchmark for excellence, even if it takes sheer memorizing or prioritizing academic skills above other skills. When top grades aren't achieved, students feel like failures. Teachers too. They wonder why they can't get their class up to speed. In this context, preparing for exams almost becomes the goal of education. And right now, how do you keep doing this when schools keep closing?
The pandemic definitely has left a mark for the whole school community. I mean, the parents, the teachers, and then the students. And I do see more and more students are beginning to feel the pressure.
Dari segi pelajar, murid, yang akan mungkin terkesan, yang akan ada tekanan adalah murid-murid yang akan menghadapi peperiksaan penting seperti SPM, STPM, STAM.
Teachers are also equally pressured. They have to finish the syllabus and make numerous reports. And then at the end of the day, they are always worried whether the students are able to follow their lessons or not. Worse still, there are many, some of them, they are teaching in a class where the students are really, the majority of students really come from broken homes or from B40 families, where they are not able to do anything for them because there is no way the teacher can access them.
So whilst the good news is that there is a vaccine formula for our health, there is still no vaccine formula for our children's mental health, of loneliness, depression, self-worth, anxiety. Where's the vaccine for that? What does education now play for that? That's going to be the real important work that we will have to do going forward.
In light of the pandemic, educators and parents are concerned about the learning loss that students are experiencing as a result of being out of school for many months. The traditional education system and ways of assessment is not pandemic-proof and relies heavily on centralized examination to measure success. The pandemic also shed light on some of the biggest inequities in education, where students who were previously left behind in the system are now further disadvantaged. Students who struggle to keep up, even pre-pandemic, are now facing huge challenges when it comes to learning online and adapting the current education system to their style of learning. There is a great worry among teachers, parents, and even students themselves that they are falling behind. Everyone is feeling the mental stress and pressure to do the impossible, to catch up on a whole year of missed opportunities, especially students who are facing their final year exams. But I often ask, what is the real issue? Could we have a different way of looking at our standards of assessment? What should we be focusing on instead? Until every player in the education industry is willing to address this honestly, we will continue facing the same problems as we are today. There is a lot to unpack here, of course, but what we know is that there is already a gap between the competencies that the traditional education assesses for versus the competencies our students really need to thrive in or strive to be excellent in as adults. For example, we focus on the completion of homework, the ability to recall information, and perhaps a bit of extracurricular activities, thinking that's enough. But the workplace that our students will be going into requires people to be curious, to have self-driven vision and passion, navigate complex issues, have a connection to culture, understand the bigger picture, communicate and express well, and so on. Our education system should be designed in such a way that we intentionally allow learning of these skills and assess for it. It is not enough for us to get our students into college or land their first job, then struggle through it. We must prepare them for life, and it starts now. We should be assessing not just for knowledge, but for skills, values, and attitude also. The OECD has provided a framework for this called the Learning Compass 2030. It's meant to enable students to exercise agency, to set a goal, reflect, and act responsibly to effect change. And these goals are going to look very different for every student because they are driven by individual interest and passion. With this in mind, what if we had a new way of evaluating students that uses a wider yet more personalized range of assessment methods? Assessments that allow them to learn and understand their own strengths and weaknesses, or that guides students towards grasping new concepts and applying them in different areas, or to be able to articulate their own thoughts and give feedback. All these things will help them reach excellence in their own way. It's like cooking. We know the goal is to produce a meal that is tasty, nourishing, and filling. To do that, you need to recognize the different ingredients that add flavor, nutrition, and substance to your dish. When the right ingredients, not just one, come together, you're able to prepare a great dish that will serve its purpose at the dinner table. Likewise, say the goal of education is to prepare students to problem solve, have resilience, self-awareness, and lead with vision. What ingredients do we need to produce that?
Cheryl, that makes me feel a little hungry. But yeah, I can understand the pressure these students are facing with grade-based assessments. I must admit that I tend to get a little competitive myself when there's a scoreboard. You could say that the challenge itself fuels my desire to do better. And I know that if it will benefit someone else, even more so.
Really? If that's the case, I have an idea. Let's explore a new concept of assessing by doing a little cook-off. I mean, since we're hungry anyways, why don't you cook us a healthy breakfast? Let's see if you can come up with a dish that uses healthy ingredients and tastes amazing.
Whoa, are you serious?
Let's do it! Healthy and tastes amazing.
Do you know that chickpeas come in a can?
Yeah.
What can you do with chickpeas?
Do you think that was too hard? They're starting to look a little stressed. And I didn't even say what the price was. I hope they stay focused on the goal because stress can get in the way of having a clear mind. Speaking of stress, we know our students are experiencing a tremendous amount of stress now because they're facing exams. While these two cook up a storm, let's speak to Alicia Othman, clinical psychologist and managing director of Thrive Well, to better understand mental health and what students could be experiencing today.
Yeah, I think the academic pressure is a common theme that I see when we work with our, whether it's individual clients that I work with or also with the community. And I think this goes back to that psychosocial aspect. It's one of the cultural norm, right? Particularly in our country, and even I think there's an OECD survey across about 70 countries that showed, right, students, respondents around high school age, around 15 to 16, right, that they showed around more than 50% agreed that they are feeling stressed about poor grades, that they worry, so they are anxious about taking, structured standardized exams. They also worry about whether they are preparing or well prepared to face these exams. And around 40% experience stress just while studying. When a student experiences stress, if it's prolonged stress or adversities, it can actually have an impact on the neurobiology and the hormone of the developing child and adolescents. So it can lead to some extent, their health, poorer health outcomes. And in terms of their psychological well-being, are they able to regulate their emotions? I think this is a very important part. Are they able to understand, develop empathy? Are they able to socialize, have good supportive social relationships in terms of their peers, with their family, and how to relate to others in the world? Teachers are our best ally, because they actually spend, if you think about it, the students are in school, right, for almost the entire day. So parents may have 2 or 3 children, you only see 2 or 3, but teachers see a wide range of students' behavior issues. So clearly they're also under pressure. So whatever the students are experiencing, right, the pressure to perform academically, it's also projected to the teachers, right? And there is a risk of high burnout and mental burden among the teachers. And I think this was quoting the NUTP in 2018, revealed that stress and depression among educators are on the rise. And even Ministry of Education in 2018 disclosed about 4% of educators actually report, moderate to high stress level. So clearly I think teachers, I think when we talk about, if we want to improve the education system, it's also how to ensure we improve the mental health and well-being of the teachers as well, because there is a direct impact, right? To, basically, if happy teachers, students will be happy students as well. So how do we ensure that the teachers are also supported? And lastly, looking at how to ensure we can adapt to the diversity of the students' needs. And this is the tricky part, right? Because education is targeted for a mass population. But we know when it comes to mental health needs, there may be specific needs that may come up. So I think it's really how do we, if looking at it from a community psychology perspective, it's really a keyword here will be collaboration, understanding the roles and responsibilities, and doing it together, rather than feeling that, hey, it's the teacher's responsibility. No, it's not 100% teacher's responsibility. It's also the parents' responsibility, the community leaders, perhaps other actors or organizations in the community that needs to support the school as well.
Alicia has given us a lot to consider, and I honestly wonder, how can we encourage a healthy pursuit of excellence in a way that doesn't compromise the mental health and well-being of students and teachers too?
So here's my plan. Instead of just making hummus as a dip for these raw veggies, I'm going to create a more substantial meal instead. I'm going to create vegetarian tacos.
Oh, that's pretty clever. Oh, hey, did you know that bananas are sometimes classified as berries?
What? How?
Well, bananas come from the flower of a banana tree, right? So it develops from a single ovary, it has soft skin, a fleshy middle, and small seeds, all of which meet the botanical requirements of a berry. So I'm making berry pancakes. Get it?
Wow. I'm never gonna finish at this rate.
Oh, hey, don't give up. Let me show you a little trick. Just turn the pomegranate this way, get the wooden spoon, and then just hit it like this. See? So much easier than whisking dalgona coffee.
Thanks, Lou. This is super efficient. I was panicking for a bit there, but I can do this. Speaking of a healthy pursuit of excellence, I think it starts by understanding what is not healthy. The author of the Perfectionism book, Will Vander Hart, addresses 3 kinds of perfectionism that we experience.
Will is also the founder of Mind and Soul Foundation, a nonprofit that provides resources and support for people who struggle with mental health issues.
So perfectionism is multidimensional, and that means it's directed in 3 specific ways. A couple of psychologists called Hewitt and Flett devised something called the multidimensional perfectionism scale. Basically, there are 3 simple ideas here. The first one is that we have a self-orientated perfectionism, and that's the way that most people will experience it. It feels like a kind of narrative that points against yourself. The second sort of perfectionism is called other-orientated. And sometimes when we can't really deal with the problems or the deficiencies that we feel in ourselves, we get angry with other people and we point to their failings. So we start picking up things that they're doing that we don't like, when actually what we're really saying is, there's something about me that I don't like. And the third sort of perfectionism is what's called socially orientated perfectionism. And this may be a little bit harder to pick out, but these are the ideas of perfection that are demonstrated in society at large. So that might be seeing lots of billboard posters of women who've got perfect makeup and perfect hair in the morning, or guys who are looking incredibly strong and really perfectly dressed. And that leads you to look at yourself and then think, hold on a minute, compared to society standards, I really don't match up. So when we're teaching children or when we're parenting children, we have to be quite careful that we don't use mechanisms or behaviors which might reinforce perfectionism in our children. And there are a number of different things that we can do to reinforce or the development of perfectionistic tendencies. And remember, these are no small thing. Annie Wilson Schafer, famous writer, said that perfectionism is self-abuse of the highest order. And we also know that perfectionism is linked to all sorts of mental health problems in later life. So if we want to support the well-being of our children, which I'm sure we all do, then we have to think quite carefully about the strategies that we use in parenting. The thing is, when we use something called guilt induction parenting, we can get really impressive results, but the impressive results we get are also matched with really damaging emotional outcomes. And guilt induction parenting is when we actively shame a child or make the child feel more responsible for, if you like, failure or imperfection than they really are. So some parents would say things like, well, if you really loved me, you would work harder. If you think about that from the child's perspective, they've linked loving their parent to working. So what they found, it says that their love is conditional on working hard. So of course they want their parent to know that they love them and they want to be loved by their parent. And the result is that they work in fear in order that they can experience a relationship of love with parent. Or the parent might say something like, you're making me feel really bad by your lack of concentration, or you're making me feel really depressed by the way in which you're misbehaving in school. So what we've got here is we've created a link between the child's behavior or lack of focus and an emotional health problem in the parent. So suddenly the child feels overly responsible for the well-being of the parent. And not only are they overly responsible for it, the only way of resolving it is by working harder and getting better results. And that creates, untold stress in children. And that anxiety drives more perfectionistic behaviors. And children can also become quite obsessive about their work as a result. And it's not because they become better students, it's because they become more anxious students. And what we need to work really hard here is towards is separating out our desire as parents and teachers to see children fulfill their potential and also loving them exactly where they are right now. But ultimately, I believe that their achievement will be best blessed when it comes through their excitement for the topics on the table. And I think LEAP is a great resource for helping us to engage with enthusiasm around learning. And what, as an ex-teacher, I would love to see is children enthused by learning, not terrified of the learning that they're engaging with. And Here's a really important point. If we want to support excellence in learning, it's let's reward excellence when we see it. We often find that we are, again, placing rewards at the end of the rainbow. So when you finally achieve those top grades, or when you finally get into that university or that school, then you'll get a reward. But reward children today for great excellence and great effort. Remember, comparative to their own levels of learning. We tend to end up being quite binary. We either go all out for major affirmation without the reference to anything negative, or we go all out for negative referencing and don't give credence to anything positive. So we tend to flip on this scale. What I'm saying is actually we need really healthy balance here. We need to really reward effort, but we also need to identify failure. And failure isn't a moment to say, I told you so, you're not going to amount to anything. It's never character assassination. It's always focused on itself. Why do you think that didn't go so well? Were you concentrating when you were revising? Is there anything you don't understand that I could help you with? How does it feel to struggle? Those questions are immediate and they're focused on the failure or on the disappointment itself. They're not focused on criticizing the child. And equally, when we're celebrating the child, we're not over-celebrating the child. We're celebrating the fact that they made effort and achieved. We're filling their tank by saying, you've done something really great. Equally, you've done something that's not so great. But we're not saying you are great or you are terrible. And this is the key distinction with perfectionism. We turn it away from character elevation or character assassination to dealing with the issue of learning. How are we doing? A child needs to feel loved and feel secure if they can address their learning positively and deal with failure with resilience. I want to suggest to you that children are curious, that they need their learning to be flowing and engaging, and that flow and that engagement built on healthy self-confidence and self-worth will lead to the pursuit of excellence.
I absolutely agree with the need for education to create healthy learning environments. And this starts by paying attention to the small habits, how we speak about ideas of good or great, how we encourage our students, how we treat them, and what we ask them to focus on.
We need to give more recognition to the incremental progress they make in their own capacity.
Ooh, looks fresh. And Lou, I noticed just now how you helped Sun Seng with the pomegranate hack. I thought that was really smart and very thoughtful of you to help him with the process.
We're not done yet, but thanks so much for the encouragement, Cheryl.
No worries.
Having space to discover what you're good at and be encouraged to master it can really set you on a path towards great things. And you know what? Great things look different for everyone.
Students need to find their fit so that they can excel in their own way and make a real impact. After all, education is to prepare young people to meet the needs of society.
I agree. I know many remarkable people who pursued their own path of excellence and found their niche.
My career in skating really grew from when I was young. And I didn't just fall in love with the sport right away. For me, when I started off, I was just playing and having fun. It took me a few years, at least until I was about 8 or 9, where I began to really understand the sport a little bit more. And that one time where I was competing, I had this really fun program by, the music was to James Brown. And when I started off the program, people were already just cheering for me. I could see the excitement and the joy people had in the audience. Watching me skate because of the music, it was just so lively, and I was just, it made me happy, and I just sort of drew more energy from there and skated the best I could. So for me, I think it was also the passion to express myself and to bring joy to people as well. So I think that really kept me going with skating and making it into a career. So with figure skating, there's many ways to look at it. So with how I see it is that with personal best scores, it's always good that because then you know you're competing with yourself. You want to always do better than how you did before. And it's very important to see that because then you see results grow. But if you're always constantly thinking of, I want to be number one, I want to beat the world champion. It's very difficult if you're starting off at world number 500, right? We got to set small goals. And in order to do that, you have to be able to compete with yourself and to be able to understand where you stand and how you're going to get better instead of right away reaching for the stars. So for me, I find personal best is a great way to slowly inch forward. It might take time, but eventually you are moving forward. I find like perfection is so subjective because what is perfect to me might not be perfect to you. And whenever I see my students and how they skate and what the results are, I always ask them first, what is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to get at the end of this? And based on that, I feel like it's my responsibility to help them achieve that. It may not necessarily be something I want to see from them, but it has to come from the student itself. And that's when we know the student is determined and dedicated to achieve what they want.
So I majored in architecture because I love the idea of drawing and connecting all the dots and finding solution for a more sustainable lifestyle to shelter people in general. So through architecture, where there's a lot of technicality and creativity involved, I found the love of photography as well. It has the power and the tool to make a change, to capture the present and preserve the past, and to have the ability to impact, reform, inform, and unite people. So from there, I felt like photography, it is a medium and an art form to connect with people. That's where I found my love for documentary photography.
So I think one of the highlights I would say that in my photography career is being able to be accredited for my work to cover the Winter Olympics at Pyeongchang 2018, which is the same year that is Malaysian first debut in the Winter Olympic, coming from an equatorial tropical climate country. And soon after that, my work got picked up by platforms such as Associated Press, Washington Post, Getty Image. After a few years later, I had the opportunity to work with Rick Hong-yi on tackling a very important topic, which is climate. And I think the climate, it is a art piece of the world map. So I'm very honored to be able to capture that.
I think passion is really important. I think there's a difference between interest and I think there's a difference between passion. So interest is when you feel like, oh, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to make some muffins. I'm going to bake some muffins for today, right? But passion is being able to persevere with an interest and to be able to do that constantly and hone a craft constantly. So as opposed to getting up and say baking a batch of muffins versus doing muffins every day consistently and trying to make it better and to do it to a point where you're increasing the value of what you're doing in yourself as well as in the product that you're making. Unless your passion has a component of perseverance, meaning to do that consistently over and over again, even when it's difficult, and there are going to be many times when it's going to be extremely difficult. When it's discouraging, you keep on trudging on, you keep on doing that. That's when passion has a value, because passion is that fuel and the perseverance is that wheel. You know what I mean? So it's the passion churns that engine, and perseverance makes sure that you get from point A to point B in a manner that keeps you getting better. And in that sense, passion is integral for becoming better at anything. Deoka is meaningful to me because there was an opportunity to do something that no one else had done before. The time was right for a restaurant to explore produce that comes from this land, that was indigenous to us, that was from our farmers, that was from our fishermen, and to take that and find a novel way to cook it and to put that onto a plate and then present it to Malaysians and say, hey, look, this is the most wonderful produce and it's coming from our country. Things that we've never heard of, things that we've never used before, things that we've never even dared to put on a restaurant menu. We did that through the vehicle of Deokan. I think it's important today for educators to encourage passion because students are going to learn what they want to do anyway. And if educators are not there to provide role models, to provide guidance, to provide structure, you're going to find students looking for those exact things in different places. And those places might not be the right kind of may not be the right kind of environments for them to propel and to project forward. So educators are integral in nurturing passion, but bringing in together all of the necessary other attributes that make passion strong as a powerful engine.
Wow, those are really inspiring people. It's so good to hear their take on passion and the pursuit of excellence.
Yeah, should have asked Darren for some cooking tips.
True. But anyway, don't you think hearing their stories kinda give us a glimpse of what it can look like when people are given the space to reach for excellence in their own way, like in their own walk of life?
This reminds me of a children's book that was published in the early stages of the pandemic. It's called Hope, Where Are You? The authors Elisa Guerra and Armand Doucet painted this beautiful picture of children who are able to continue reaching for excellence in their own circumstances, despite the setbacks of the pandemic. By doing so, each of them bring hope to themselves, their family, and their community. Many of these were based on true stories.
Many educators, we are perfectionists. We want everything to go as planned. We do very careful planning of our lessons, and we get stressed when things don't go the way that we have planned. So in times of our uncertainty, it is a very good ability to develop to be able to adjust to the changes that are going to come our way. Life is going to be throwing us at us some curveballs, and if we are able to react and change course and adapt, I think that that's a very important part of excellence as well. Excellence is not, in my view, to choose a path and to stick to the path no matter what. Of course, you need perseverance, but you also need the flexibility. And yes, uncertain times are flexible times, are times for being flexible. When I wrote Hope, Where Are You?, I worked in collaboration with a very good friend of mine, Armand Doucet, who is also a teacher, and with my daughter, Anna Robu. She was the illustrator of the book. One of our friends, another teacher, an Italian teacher, was very distressed because he had lost two of his family members, including his father. And at the same time, he was also very worried about his students. You remember that Italy was one of the first countries that was hardest hit by the pandemic when this just was beginning. So he, in the midst of his own grief because of losing his father, he was looking for ways to reach out to his students. And many of the stories in the book are stories like Armando's, this is the name of this teacher. Many of the stories were real stories that some other teachers told us. Some of the stories were inspired in children that were close to us. One of the stories is inspired in Armand's own daughter, Kate's story. There was another story that was very dear, very close to my heart, and this is Mulu's story. She's a little girl from Africa. Now, this is a true story. It's not a story of the pandemic. It's a story of 20 years ago of a little girl who escaped child marriage, not once, but 3 times. And this is a story that UNICEF made public, made open. So we change the context, of course, but there was really a Mulu that was striving to get back to school because she wanted to become a teacher, and she had some great ideas for her own life. So we took these little tidbits of stories from around the world, some current, some from other times, and we try to integrate them into a storybook. We are trying to reach all that is common to us, humanity and hope, of course, and also dealing with these feelings of despair, of uncertainty that were very present and are still very present today because of the pandemic. So that's how we became, how we came to the idea of the book. And we worked on the book for about 6 weeks, from beginning to end. We created the stories and we made the illustrations and everything in about 6 weeks. And then we had an outpour of help from many teachers from around the world to translate the book into many languages. What we wanted to do with this book was to help parents and educators start meaningful conversations with their children and students about our feelings and about how we could overcome these challenges together. I think the message of hope is important for students. Of course it is, but it's also important for teachers. And my worry is that right now, when we are still in the pandemic, and even when the pandemic is over and when we are allowed to go back to our schools, I am worried about the pressure that teachers are already feeling over, for example, learning loss. Everything that we lost to the pandemic in the past months, in the past year and a half almost. And sometimes we can confuse hope with this pressure to achieve. The world right now pushes us to become overachievers. And we get many requests from our time, from our effort, from many different places. And we try to be perfect. And that's not realistic. When we understand that hope is about embarking ourselves in a road to self-learning, to self-reflection, to betterment of ourselves, then we can also be a changing force for the betterment of our communities.
Time's up. You see what I did there, Lou? All right. What do we have here, Lou?
I made blueberry banana pancakes.
Well, it looks delicious, but will it taste as delicious as it looks? Let's find out. Lou, I think I just lost my appetite. For lunch, because this breakfast dish is seriously amazing. Well done. All right, now Sun Sing, what do you have there?
Well, with my newly learned specialty, vegetarian tacos and hummus. Here, have some.
All right. Sun Sing, this is all right, but it's not what I expected. It's way better than that. You've come a long way and now you can stop making that breakfast oats for yourself. This is amazing. All right, guys, let's tally up the leaderboard.
Oh, wow! So, who won?
Well, it looks like you have both received recognition for different things.
Oh yeah, look, Sun Sing, that was for your research effort when you Googled dishes that use chickpeas. Oh, and you even got a badge for creativity and ideation when you switched up your dish. Oh, and a badge for overcoming self-doubt too.
Your collection of badges look pretty colorful too. I see badges for mastery of skills, knowledge and kindness when you showed me that neat trick with the pomegranates. Looks like we both got a basket of healthy badges.
Well done.
Hey, what does this button do? Oh wow! Look, Cheryl, you've got badges too!
I see badges for positive reinforcement, encouragement and kindness, and even for having a sense of humor.
Naturally, no surprise there, but this does feel good.
Gotta say, I like this way of encouraging excellence. How nice to be recognized for your progress and individual strength.
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, there are many education institutions out there that evaluate progress and individual strengths. They use the tools and truly believe in each. We can learn so much from them.
We've covered quite a bit about reaching for perfection today, haven't we?
Yes, we have. It's about constantly pursuing excellence. Perfectionism itself is crippling and can affect mental health, as we learned from Will and Alicia. But pursuing our own path of excellence can result in amazing things.
We need to recognize that this looks different for everyone, so we can build an environment that recognizes individual strengths and interests, and provide the support they need to become better.
This might mean changing the way we speak in the classroom or at home, as Will talked about.
Or being open to evaluation methods that identify strengths and encourage personal growth, as Cheryl mentioned.
Or focus on recognizing progress.
Inspiring individuals like Julian, Anise, and Darren have given us a glimpse of what it looks like when we're given space to pursue our individual passions and how that fuels perseverance.
The uncertainty we live in right now can make predetermined standards of perfection feel more impossible to reach. To move forward in these times, we need a different approach.
We need to encourage hope in whatever circumstance we're in. Only then can young people today continue becoming better versions of themselves and bring change to their communities, just like the stories in Hope, Where Are You?
Together, let's continue to encourage the individual pursuit of passion and excellence so that our young people can become the best of who they are, because this world needs them.
Truth, I'm not trying to glaze it. What you're chasing, it's no race, let's face it. Complacent isn't getting you nowhere. Some patience and a hit of grit.
Designing learning environments of the future is no easy task, but it is an exciting one.
Maybe like a subject where we just learn general stuff about like life, like not just a subject of life, like taxes and insurance and debt and banks and credit cards and all of that stuff.
And it involves everybody.
To be able to come up with either an app or a curriculum, a building or a town.
The brightest minds.
What we are reimagining today is hope.
Those with honest questions.
You create different parts in the room and you just see where the kids gravitate towards.
The ones with radical ideas.
Throw them into a room so there's like the teachers, the lawyers, the doctors, the artists.
So like bigger life lessons.
Or I want to work on this type of project, and so they've got all these different sorts of options that are available to them.
And the ability to really think ahead and out of the box.
I'm not trying to glaze it. What you're chasing, it's no race, let's face it. Complacent isn't getting you nowhere. Some patience and a hit of grit is how we're getting there. You don't gotta be 100, you don't gotta get the score, you don't gotta get perfection that it won't. truth, I'm not trying to glaze it. What you're chasing, it's no race, let's face it. Complacent isn't getting you nowhere. Some patience and a hit of grit is how we're getting there. You don't gotta be 100, you don't gotta get the score, you don't gotta get perfection, that ain't what we truth, I'm not trying to glaze it. What you're chasing, it's no race, let's face it. Complacent isn't getting you nowhere. Some patience and a hit of grit is how we're getting there. You don't gotta be 100, you don't gotta get the score, you don't gotta get perfection, that ain't truth, I'm not trying to glaze it. What you're chasing, it's no race, let's face it. Complacent isn't getting you nowhere. Some patience and a hit of grit is how we're getting there. You don't gotta be 100, you don't gotta get the score, you don't gotta get perfection, that ain't what truth, I'm not trying to glaze it. What you're chasing, it's no race, let's face it. Complacent isn't getting you nowhere. Some patience and a hit of grit is how we're getting there. You don't gotta be 100, you don't gotta get the score, you don't gotta get perfection, that ain't what truth, I'm not trying to glaze it. What you're chasing, it's no race, let's face it. Complacent isn't getting you nowhere. Some patience and a hit of grit is how we're getting there. You don't gotta be 100, you don't gotta get the score, you don't gotta get perfection, that ain't what